Good morning to all. Now we are going to discuss about archives and its function. Archives. Archives is an organized body of records. The value and importance of archives were realized since the later part of 18th century when the writing of national and regional history developed. When historical research entered into different dimensions such as social history, political history, economic history, cultural history, religious history, and history of organization as well as movements, the importance of archives was seriously felt. Researchers began to consider archives as a main center of social scientific research, and the records have become the authentic materials for substantiating their views. Hence, the study of archives as an area of specialization has gained importance.
Types of records. One can broadly classify the archives as public archives and private archives. Public archives. The public archives are otherwise also known as government archives. The records produced by the government are preserved in the place for posterity and the public. The Public Record Office, the records produced in original by various departments of the government and are preserved according to the archival value of records. Private archives, records produced by the private organization like business firms, temples, churches, mosques are preserved for their own use. These records are known as private records, and the place of the preservation is called private archives. The Paris Register for the entering of weddings, christenings, and burials came into existence without any notice of the preliminaries as a result of Cromwell's injunctions in 1538. Functions of archives. Acquisition policy. Archives collect non-current records of an organization. These are the types of materials collected in the archives. These vary from government records, folklore materials, history of people, manuscripts, etc. As per the archival requirement, the acquisition is pivotal. Following on the certain acquisition policy defining the types of records that archive seeks to add to their holdings. Policies of institutional archives usually attempt to ensure adequate and complete documentation of the institution, its function, and its activities. Therefore, the policy identifies priority subjects for acquisition and types of materials mostly like to provide important information about the institution. Specify the administrative units that are mostly likely to create essential documentation. Defining categories of personal and family papers and other non-institutional collection. Defining acquisitions in relationship to the holdings of other archival material. Many similar institutions are concerned with the documentation of similar subjects and serve the needs of the same researchers. Because duplicate documentation is of little value to these scholars and absorbs valuable archival resources. Institutions can cooperatively choose areas of specialization or may agree that records or papers should be placed in institutions already holding relevant later documentation. Appraisal. The decision by an archive or organization is to take a collection to preserve and process its own archival records. It involves a significant commitment of time, money, and space because no one can afford to keep everything and anything. That is why the incoming material considered must be appraised to determine, firstly, whether the collection as a whole is worth keeping, and second, which items within it are permanently valuable. The preference of decision for preserving collection depends upon the current historical and cultural values and the intellectual and conceptual frameworks of those conducting the appraisal. Documentation. An essential bridge between the collectors and the archives is documentation. It is the written document which accompanies with the acquired materials. For system documentation, every piece of note has great value as the context is not self-evident. The documentation process includes the identification of items, storage, location, retrieval, presentation, and circulation for the information of users. For example, in a sound archive, the archivists have very little knowledge of being responsible for the preservation of recordings for the future user without knowing who they will be and what they may need to know. Therefore, all details of the recording, including the answers to the basic questions why, what, where, when, by whom, for whom, etc., should be documented as an archival holding. Preservation. Preservation is one of the major processes of archiving. The process of preservation takes place after a systematic, well-documented collection has been made with its contents. The goal of preservation is to ensure that record in archival custody survive for an indefinite period of time. Archival materials are diverse. They are composite objects generally comprising of a variety of papers, inks from carbon ink to laser printing, animal skins and its products, textiles, photographs and photographic material, audiovisual materials like wax cylinders, shellac and optical materials like CD and DVD, magnetic materials like tape, hard disks and floppy disks, etc. These materials are composed of diverse material, most often respond somewhat differently to changing environmental conditions. Hence, they may vary in their preservation processes. Some of the most serious dangers are insects, dust, heat, and humidity, which can be prevented with climate control. The core aspects of preservation are the physical preservation of archival building, air conditioning system, ventilating, and dehumidifier. Preservation apparently makes an attempt to maintain materials in a sound physical and chemical condition.
Using archives. Archival collection exists to be used, but the understanding of its appropriate use varies from institution to institution in line with their missions. Usually, all archives provide information of their collections in published forms like newspapers, letters, or brochures, etc. Nowadays, in many countries, information is provided through the internet. Therefore, archives require to guide the user how to care and handle the archival records, especially for paper records, which are prone to perishing if handled recklessly. Most often in sound archives, duplicate copies are made so the original recordings remain safe and intact. Most of the sound archives provide copies of recording to the user for research activity or on request. Thank you.